Awesome, thank you.
There we go. Press a button. So I'll start off and say thank you all for coming on this somewhat sunny day. It's getting sunnier outside. Well, we're gonna be doing the virtual open house number 3. So we'll be here until about 5 o'clock, and then you can all get outside and get out to the park or the playground or whatever you're gonna do on this sunny afternoon. But yeah, thank you all for coming. This is the very final public open house for the project. And we're going to start with a quick round of introductions, and then we'll have a presentation, and we're going to show you the latest concept plan for the playground, and then we'll stop with about 15-20 minutes of question and answers or conversations. And we have a couple of questions for you along the way. We're going to do some live polls just to keep everybody on their feet. So with that, I'll start with some introductions. I am Rachel Dotson with HBB Landscape Architecture, and I'm the project manager and lead landscape architect on the design side or the consultant side. I'm going to hand it over to Aaron.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aaron Parker, also with HBB Landscape Architecture, and I'm a designer working on this project. And let's pass it to Darren.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see so many familiar faces here. My name is Darren Knapp. I am a parent of 2 Highland Park students, a first grader and a third grader, and I'm co-leading the Highland Park Plays project with Lauren Buys. Lauren, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, I'm just also co-leading and very excited to see everybody here. And yeah, let's get started. Oh, wait, no, Nadia. Nadia, I should pass it on to her because she is the one who is running this wonderful meeting.
No worries, Lauren. Yes, so I'm Nadia Caldwell. I'm with S&A Communications, and we are supporting the public outreach efforts. So yes, if you have technical difficulties, you can ping me in the chat.
Right, and Nadia, while we're on you, I'll let you move into the Zoom meeting format.
Yes, so I see familiar faces, but I'll go ahead and do our kind of standard guide and give you the full spiel. So the virtual meeting format may be new to some attendees, so we'd like to highlight a few features of Zoom. If you'd like to use the chat feature to ask questions or make comments, it's at the bottom center of the screen. It's the button that looks like a little dialog box. You can click on that button and type questions throughout the meeting, or feel free to reserve your questions for the end of the meeting. The 2 buttons on the lower left will allow you to mute or unmute yourself. Let's see here. I've got my list. Yes, so if you're calling in, which it looks like everybody's here, you can dial *6 to mute your audio if you would like to. And then one just caveat that we like to say at our workshops here is that we are here to have fun and participate in the safe manner. And we just really want to thank you for your participation.
Thanks, Nadia. All right, so I'll give a quick overview of what we're going to discuss today and the project schedule and where we are in the schedule. So today we're going to present some quick feedback of what we heard from the online survey after community meeting number 2. And then we have a hybrid concept. We kind of anticipated that this would be a hybrid of our original 3 concepts. So we're going to show you that. And then we'd like to ask you some questions about your preferences for things that will go into the plan and potential phases. And then also just get some overall feedback, thoughts on how the plan has come into place. So schedule wise, we're here in early June. After we wrap up this community meeting, the online survey is going to be open for a couple of weeks. We'll gather all that feedback from the online survey and what you tell us today into the final master plan. And from there, we're going to start working on construction documents for the next phase of construction, which should be through the summer. And then come early September, we'll be ready to start applying for additional grant funding. And okay, so we have some feedback summary from community outreach meeting number 2. So we presented 3 overall schemes for the open space. We were calling them gather, play, and active. And we kept it very open-ended. So we got a lot of really open feedback about this. And so this is just a snapshot of some of the comments that we received. I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but we probably received at least 5 times as many comments as what you're seeing here. So we've got some really good compliments in there, as well as some pretty constructive feedback, concerns that people had about certain concepts. And we really took that into consideration when we started to develop the hybrid concept. So let's see here. If I were to pick out just a couple of these comments, a lot of the comments at the bottom we were receiving from students, so lots of compliments. Thank you very much for that. People were really liking the obstacle course, and let's see here. You know, lots of comments like this, like the swale, the dry cobble swale that we had shown a bit fussy, no rain gardens. That was directly related to adding planting that would add a lot of maintenance requirements. So we really took that to heart and tried to address a lot of those concerns, as well as keeping in a lot of the things that people had positive feedback about. All right, and with that, we did prepare this hybrid concept, added a lot more detail to it, a lot more color, and to really help a lot of the different features to stand out. And I am going to start telling you about this plan up here in the upper left, and then I'm going to kind of work my way around this plan. So I'll start with the playground area. This lighter teal green, which is a little bit different than our more vibrant green over here. This green would be the playground surfacing and the dedicated playground space. And so we're showing a playground structure right here. Think of that composite structure you would see in a lot of different playgrounds around the city. Climbers, slides, that kind of thing. The blue dot here could be a merry-go-round, or what we're calling a spinner. And then a couple of red asterisks here, which are indicating something else special, something else playful that could fit into the playground space. And then up above the playground, where the existing grass hillside is a little bit steep, we're showing maybe softening out that hillside, adding some landscape boulders for informal seating and gathering. This starts to play on the boulder scramble at the phase 1 playground, and it starts to trickle that concept out into this play space and adds a little bit more seating and gathering at the playground. Very informal. And you know, boulders along a playground add some informal just comfortable spots for people to come and sit. But we also do have a couple of benches in and around the playground. This is kind of a comment we get in a lot of playgrounds, that there's just not enough seating. So we tried to really integrate a lot of seating for parents or grandparents on the weekend, or the playground supervisor as well. Moving over to the right, we have the chestnuts tree here, and what we're showing here is the existing retaining wall, just a little bit higher above the surface of the blacktop, and we're showing a new improved retaining wall, which would add a low terrace in front of that retaining wall. And so the intent of that is to reduce the height of the drop from the existing retaining wall down to the surface, because we know there's a concern with kids jumping off of that retaining wall or falling off of that retaining wall and getting hurt. And so we're trying to reduce that drop while also integrating a very informal seating or gathering space around the tree, which will hopefully start to grow some branches back and provide some shade in that area of the playground sometime in the next handful of years. Moving a little bit further over to the right, we're showing a few additional shade trees. One of these is existing, so we would aim to potentially add a few more, get some shade over here by the amphitheater. We also have a dedicated plaza space at the very top of the amphitheater. So this would be the space where the recess supervisor could have a seat or stand and watch the activity that's happening down here in the amphitheater or garden space. Or they could also have a nice open view to the blacktop in the playground and what's happening during recess. The yellow triangles are a shade structure that could be the fabric shade sails, something to add color and shade up there that might not necessarily be shade trees, and a handful of benches in that area as well. Moving down to the amphitheater, where the existing garden boxes are now located, we're showing them as these green boxes over here. So they would be located off of the amphitheater steps to allow a lot more use of that amphitheater, but also to provide a little bit more usability of the garden, get some accessible garden boxes right off of the concrete pathway that is existing. We would aim to potentially add a new water connection, whether it's just an informal quick coupler that you can hook a hose up to, something that would make it a lot easier to water the garden boxes. So hopefully you're not having to drag hoses or watering cans out to those gardens. And then we're showing this little symbol here is a informal landscape log that would be located up along the hillside. Add some more informal seating, informal gathering, potentially adds a little bit more availability for seating if you were to have a bit of a larger event in the amphitheater. Then this space right here is an open lawn space, very much the same as the lawn space that exists currently on the outside of the fence. But what we're showing here is a low retaining wall, which would lift that lawn up on the backside. So as you're playing in this lawn space or gathering in this lawn space, you're more at the same level as the blacktop. So ideally, you're not kind of dropping out of view as you move away from the blacktop. And then a couple more landscape logs along this edge for more seating and just a bit of a separation of the two spaces. So right now in the existing playground, there's a fence that runs all along this side of the blacktop, and we're showing a good portion of that fence being removed, and that's to allow a lot more openness between these two spaces, which would gain a lot more usability and just a welcome feeling to move back and forth between the spaces here. But we don't want to forget that there's a lot of balls being kicked around and thrown around in this space, and we don't necessarily want them all going into the lawn space all the time. So the informal logs over here will help to control the balls from constantly going over here. All right, and so one kind of fun feature of this space as well is our dry cobble swale. So imagine when it rains, that rainwater is gonna all hit this blacktop, big flat paved area, and it's all gonna run all the way over here. So large amounts of water sheeting across that paving at one time. So what we are showing is that water being caught in a French drain. Oh my gosh, I lost the word there for a second. So the dashed line here would be a French drain. It would be something below grade. You wouldn't necessarily see this at the surface, but the water would kind of be caught in this pipe, and then it would connect into this pipe here, and it would daylight in the dry cobble swale. So this starts to help keep the lawn area pretty dry, so you don't end up with a squishy lawn area 2 days after it rains. And so the water would start to trickle down the dry cobble swale, and it would come over here into this existing drain. And so what we're also showing, you can't really see it here, but it's part of the plan is making some adjustments at that existing drain, potentially lowering it a little bit so the water can easily get into that drain and eliminate that drainage problem that's happening down at the bottom of the amphitheater. So it's this feature, the dry cobble swale and the French drain, are not only helping to solve that drainage issue, but it's also turning rainwater into this playful feature. When it is potentially lightly raining or even after a big storm, you would be able to see and hear the water trickling down that dry cobble swale for probably a handful of hours after each time it rains. The cobbles and the boulders that would be a part of that would also be anchored in place with mortar or concrete so that they wouldn't be loose, wouldn't be able to be picked up and thrown around. All right, and so moving down to the south here, we have the 2 existing boulders staying in place in the lawn area. And then these are the existing rain gardens that were recently installed. A couple of smaller improvements down in this area are expanding some paving over here in the corner of the blacktop and adding some benches. So when parents come for drop off and pick up, we've heard this is a pretty large group of people that can gather in this space. So they'd have a bigger space, some seating while they wait for their kids. And then this brown paving area is an improved paver pathway. There's already an informal paver pathway that runs through here. This would be just a quick shortcut up through the zigzag path. And this is one of the opportunities throughout the plan that we're seeing could be meant for donor pavers to help with funding of some of these improvements. So you would purchase pavers individually and get your name written in a paver here. Some other opportunities for doing that donor kind of improvements would be potentially mosaics on any of the retaining walls, potentially art pieces in the fence, really similar to the fish that are there now. We could really expand on that idea. Lots of opportunities for that kind of thing. All right, so that brings us to the big blacktop area. So this hybrid concept really is pretty similar to what we were showing as that active concept originally. A lot of elements from the other 2 concepts to make the space very learning friendly and playful. But when we started to look at this through the lens of what truly is feasible from a cost standpoint and a constructability standpoint, we really aimed to make sure we were reducing the amount of asphalt paving that's being removed, as well as reducing the amount of new paving being added. So this is going to help from a permitting standpoint and cost, because we know from phase 1, removing this really thick asphalt above feet of hard pan got pretty expensive, and we want to make sure we plan for that and set this project up for some success. So we've got the existing edge of the asphalt will remain, and that in and of itself allows for lots of space for sports and active uses and even passive uses in this blacktop. So what we have here is the kickball space would stay where it currently is. We have the covered basketball area. The dashed line is the existing roof line, and the white squares in here are those existing columns that come down and hold up the roof. And so we have the full basketball court underneath the covered play area. We can look at integrating a maze, which could be kind of small like it's shown here. It really could take up the whole space if we wanted to. And then the 4 blue squares here are the art frames. So we would paint picture frames into the blacktop, and then kids could come in and make their own art with chalk or temporary paint in those spots. We have a big area for soccer here, and basketball half court here. What we're showing here is the existing basketball pole that would be over here would be moved over slightly. We could relocate it. We could look at just having a brand new basketball pole here. It wouldn't necessarily need to move over. We showed it there just to plan for worst case scenario. If it was very important to keep it in its current spot, we'd potentially lose some space off of the playground. But we went ahead and showed it slightly moved over. And then we've got 3 4-square courts right here. So this is pretty flexible. In the end, if you wanted to have 2 half-court basketball up here and only 2 4-square, we could start to look at stuff like that. So pretty flexible, this plan. And then all of this fun stuff in here is the sensory pathway. And so what we're showing is just lots of learning features, hopping, skipping, hopscotch here. This could integrate the maps and mazes, multiplication tables, just lots of opportunities in here. And so we're really thinking this, if this became part of the next phase of construction documents, it can definitely be designed, but it's also kind of a cool opportunity to bring in an artist from the community to help this idea to flourish into something really cool. And then the light blue path around, I think we've shown this in just about every concept we've ever shown you, is the closed loop path. And so this would be encouraging parents to take a walk or a jog. We could stripe in mile markers, or probably like quarter-mile markers in this path. It could be a good spot for kids to learn how to bike or use a tricycle, or yeah, just any number of things, just to encourage people to use it. So we're going to jump into a couple of slides with some inspiring photos. Before we do that, are there any questions before I move off of this plan? Okay, I will move to our next slide here. So we have some overall inspiring photos for what we're seeing really inspires this plan.
Excuse me, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So the existing asphalt, no regrading of any of it, and you're pretty confident that the drainage goes from west to east now. It sheets across to your drain. You're pretty confident that's what's happening there now. Is that right?
I'm not 100% confident that all of it drains over to the east.
You are.
We can
Okay, all right.
survey that the vast majority of it does move over there, but
So,
we are confident that it will drain how it currently drains with
okay,
this
which is west to east. It sheets west to east to that edge.
primarily, yeah.
Okay, all right. And then, so then in your pricing of this, would you price a seal coat or anything else to the asphalt, or pretty much just leave it the way it is?
We currently don't have a seal coat on it.
Okay.
So yeah, it would be painting on top
Can I
of it.
jump in? The school district just did a seal
Just
coat
did.
last year, a
Recently,
year ago.
yes. Right. Okay. So then, so that painting might not be part of a general contract that you design, and it might be something that an arts group at the school or somebody does subsequently. Is that right? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, we're thinking this, we'll get into phasing here in a few slides away from here, but this is possibly an opportunity to be completely volunteer.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. All right, so to our inspiring images, we've heard along the way, diversity and culture is very important to integrate in the plan. And so we're looking for opportunities to do that, as well as lots of informal and natural spaces, logs and boulders for gathering and seating, not necessarily completely tailored to the active recreation, but also those passive uses. If you want to come out and read a book at recess, we made a space for that. This is an idea of what that sensory trail could look like. Lots of maps and globes, even if it's US map and globe, or the we've heard the Puget Sound map as well. The garden boxes, we've gotten very positive feedback all along for integrating garden boxes. One note on that, we are showing the same number of garden boxes that are out there now. So we're not necessarily expanding the capacity. That's something that could definitely happen in the future, however. This is a photo of what that dry cobbled swale could look like over by the amphitheater. Lots of kids' art spaces, playful, fun, temporary or permanent paint and chalk spaces have definitely inspired the overall layout. And then lots of opportunities to add color and shade. So we've got opportunities for the shade sails in the plaza. All right, and next, different activities that would be expressed in that blacktop or the loop path, basketball, kickball, soccer, foursquare, and lots of sensory games, fun, playful additions in between those more active sports spaces. And okay, so this slide is showing opportunities of what you might see in the playground itself. So up in that upper left-hand corner of the plan, you can have lots of opportunities built in for climbing. We've heard also obstacle courses are pretty cool and important. So we could build in those opportunities, things like monkey bars and slides. This is an image of a bigger size spinner that could go in this space. Now, spinning could also occur using smaller bowl type spinners. We could integrate lots of different challenge levels in spinning, the kind you stand on, the kind that you stand on with just your feet and don't have anything to hang on to. So be good for anyone from kindergarten all the way up to 5th or even 6th grade or so. As we start to refine the plan in the next phase, if the playground becomes a part of that next phase, what we would do is start to balance costs and space, permitting requirements with the actual equipment that would fill up that space. So there's some exploration on what the actual type of equipment would be. And I think we'd anticipate potentially coming back to the community at that point once we kind of get into that kind of detail. All right, so here's where we start asking you questions. So we go back a couple of slides here really quick. I'm going to circle this area, our playful nodes in the playground, which really could be in the playground. They could be integrated out and around the space. We have some ideas for what could go into those spaces. It could be animals and insects, something that you could climb on, sit on. It could be a horse, it could be a frog, it could be butterflies and flowers, something maybe a little more natural, something very playful. But this is one option for what those could be. Another option would be musical elements. So whether this is individually placed xylophones or drums around the space, or maybe it's one larger node with a lot of instruments in it, like this picture is showing, something musical. And then the third idea is to integrate something that's more geared for learning, STEM activities, math activities. This right here is an abacus, so it would help to help with counting and learning math. This right here is just a simple alphabet panel to help maybe the younger kids learn the alphabet and help with reading. Lots of different options for learning elements that could be integrated. So when you think about those nodes, of these three options, which one would you say you like the best? And so you should see a poll pop up on your screen, and you can just select the one that you think you would like the best. Okay, Nadia, I will let you tell me when we're ready to share the results here.
Got some more people that want to add in and vote. A few more. I'll give you about 10 more seconds. I'll take Richard's timer as it's up, and I'm going to go ahead and end the poll now. And everybody ready to see the results? Just nod. Okay. So sharing those results.
All right. That's very cool. Musical play elements. Close behind animals and insects. Okay, so next question here. We have 2 more questions for you. Okay, so like I said before, integrating diversity and culture, something to celebrate the neighborhood, has been very important throughout this project. And so we're calling out 3 different ways where how we could potentially do that, whether it's in the striping or the painting or art elements on the fence, or even in those shade sails. There's lots of ways that we can integrate these things. So we could do something celebrating the Pacific Northwest and nature, potentially integrating the local tribes into the artwork or the playfulness. The next idea is integrating a variety of different languages. Probably focusing on languages that are spoken more commonly in this community, integrating maybe some others. So you might see different words striped in a variety of different languages around the loop trail or anywhere around the play area. And then the last idea is using very artistic paint, very artistic colors, to celebrate the different cultures really anywhere in the open space. So thinking of diversity and culture, what would be your preference for how this is expressed in the play space?
Okay, I'm seeing results coming in. I think I'll give you about 10 more seconds. See, Darren wants to pick 2.
Well, all 3 actually.
It's really not limited to just this. So if we hear feedback, all 3, absolutely.
It doesn't seem like they're mutually exclusive.
Not necessarily. That would be really good feedback.
I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and then I am going to share the results.
All right. Okay, looks like Pacific Northwest and Nature got the slight lead on the other 2 options on this one. Close behind though. All right, so last question. So I'm going to go into a little bit more of an explanation on this one. So this is illustrating potential phases for how this might get built. So not necessarily in any particular order. But we would like to hear from you what you would like to see built next. So we've called out 5 different areas. The first outlined in pink here is the play equipment. When we did a cost estimate, rough order of magnitude cost estimate with a lot of variables in it right now, but we were thinking somewhere in the range of $175,000 to $200,000. Could we get that cost down? I think so. It's potentially a matter of shrinking the space, maybe going with a bit of a smaller piece of play equipment. I think we can get that down, but it's going to depend on quite a lot of factors that we need to work with the steering committee on moving into this next construction document phase. In the green, shown within that play equipment area are those playful nodes, which we're thinking adding those to the playground could be somewhere in the range of $30,000 to $45,000. The outdoor learning and garden space over here in orange is our largest area of improvement, and it's a little bit more expensive than the other ones, $200,000 to about $225,000, and that factors in a water connection, utility upgrades, as well as grading. So those things are kind of pricey, and that's why this phase is a little bit more expensive than the other ones. Smaller improvement area right down here with the new paving and the benches. We're thinking that could be done for somewhere $15,000 $10,000 to $25,000. And then the last improvement area is the blacktop. If this is something that volunteers paint completely on their own, it could be $10,000, maybe a little bit less for just purchasing of the paint, really depending on the extent of the painting that could happen. And then if a contractor were doing it, and you added in contractor fees, it's probably more in the range of $20,000. So when you consider all of these things, our question to you is, what would be your preference for what gets built next?
I'll give you all a little bit more time with this one. So you've got a little bit of time to keep thinking.
Can I ask a question while we're doing this? These are construction cost estimates? They'd be like reflective of a contractor's bid for this? Or do they include things like sales tax, contingency, project management, all the school district costs, those kind of things? Are those in there already, or are they?
The permitting and admin fees that would be more school district added costs are not in here. We've built in, I think, a 30% contingency, which could help to cover those permitting and admin costs. It does factor in everything except for the blacktop improvements. It factors in contractor markups, mobilization, all that. It does not factor in design fees. One, because we're already on board for the next phase, but you would want to add that onto this for.
And Washington State sales tax?
That's included, yep.
It's included in these numbers?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to give us about 5 more seconds and I'm going to close the poll. I see more trickling in. Okay, ending poll. And whoo, okay, I'm going to share the results.
All right. Got a pretty clear preference here. I see Darren celebrating there. Okay, so with this, the play equipment area being the clear preference here, I do want to emphasize we've got the same 3 questions on the online survey. And I'm sure, Nadia, you probably got our results for us and we can factor that into our final results, but please definitely take the online survey so that we can capture your votes in with everyone else who takes that survey. Okay, so to wrap us up here, I'll just go into a little bit more on next steps. So kind of as I mentioned at the beginning, we're here with the preferred concept in June. We're going to create an executive summary for the steering committee here in the next month and a half or so. And that's going to be a really important tool for going out and seeking additional grant funding, potentially some donations to make this happen. And then we, in the meantime, will be working on construction documents and getting you all set up for going after potential permits. We're thinking maybe not so many will be required for this project, but we're gonna try to at least plan for that potential. And then construction could potentially happen sometime next year, and then we can all celebrate and have a grand opening. So really starting as early as the end of this month, there's a lot of opportunities for getting volunteers involved. So things from writing grants, if you're really good at writing grants, I think Darren would love to have you reach out to her. You know, if you're really excited about some of these installation projects that could potentially be done by volunteer efforts, painting, installing some smaller structures, maybe even helping to install the playground, definitely reach out. And then community outreach is very, very important. As much as you can tell classmates, tell your neighbors that this project is going on, and getting everybody excited and keeping them in the loop of what's going on. It's just really important. And so, Darren, unless you have anything to add, I'll just say, if you have some ideas on how you'd like to volunteer or stay involved, definitely reach out to Darren about that.
And I have a question, Rachel.
Yeah.
Rachel, this is Pam Alspaugh from the Parks Department. And you mentioned the tree up above, and it sounds like the tree has some issues. You were hoping it would branch out, you said. Is
Mhm.
there, what's wrong with, is there something wrong with the tree?
I'm not sure if there's anything wrong with the tree. What we heard after outreach meeting number 2 was that it had gotten trimmed quite considerably, and there's some loss of
Oh.
shade.
Actually, let me jump in. This is
We know what
Gretchen.
happened now, yes,
This is Gretchen. Pamela, a huge limb fell off the tree.
right.
And I think Parks maybe trimmed one more branch off of the tree.
Yeah,
after
it
that.
had some storm damage, so they cleaned that up. Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure that was it. Thanks, bye.
Okay. All right. So that kind of wraps us up here. We have about 15 minutes for discussion and any questions that you have. But yeah, definitely write down this link, type it into your computer, or copy in this QR code from your phone if you'd like, and please take that online survey. Encourage your friends and classmates and everybody to get online over the weekend or so and take the survey for us, so we can get a lot of feedback on preferences. And then, of course, if you have any questions moving forward from today, feel free to reach out to Darren. And with that, I think I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
I'll add one comment, and thanks again to everyone for coming to the last community meeting and just all your participation. I am excited about just continued connections with the community over this project. And so it would be great if you know how to write grants, if you wanted to help write grants, but that's not the only way to connect. If you just hear of opportunities, we're looking at grants and family foundations and just volunteer time and energy, then just reach out to me. I'm looking for, contributions big and small. So please just feel free to reach out.
Also, I keep dropping, it's probably a lot now, but I've dropped in the link to the survey, so you can actually click it right from the chat. But definitely copy it, take a picture of this slide and share it out there with everyone who would be interested, so we can get all of that feedback.
I may have missed it, but is there a way just to donate directly? I mean, is there a particular fund, or is it straight to the PTA and earmark it for the playground? What does that look like?
Darren, do you want to take that one, or Lauren?
Lindsay is the PTA treasurer, and she's actually on the meeting too. But yeah, you can send it directly to the PTA. And if you just like if you're doing it with PayPal and stop. Sorry. You can put a note on there what you want it to be for, or if you're handing a check over or giving cash over or whatever, just let us know, and we can make sure that we have a special amount of money set aside for playground stuff, so it can just go in that.
Great, thanks.
And just to update folks on where we are with funding this project, I had definitely had sticker shock when I saw some of the prices for, a playground structure. And I think some of that comes from the surfacing, like Rachel was saying. But we do have $90,000 from Seattle Public Schools that has been earmarked for us. So I think that was a surprise to us last month, and a great surprise. And we're trying to build on that momentum. We also have some money that the PTA has raised from the past project till now that we have set aside as well. I think it's like, I don't remember how much, Lauren, 5 or 10,000 to 10,000 for. And so we are looking to make up the rest of that through grants and through foundation donations. And so I think one thing that I want to be really cognizant of is trying to fundraise in our community. As Highland Park is a Title I school, expecting the community to raise $100,000 or $200,000, I think is unreasonable in many ways. And so finding resources outside of that are either community organizations, like I said, or family foundations is one way that we're looking to make that leap.
I had a question. Yeah, I was surprised that the priority for the expansion of the play equipment was so high and exclusive in this group anyway. And although I voted that way, and I'm just wondering, is that an expression of informed opinion or just random opinion? In other words, are the people that use the playground every day, would they share that opinion? Or would they perceive some other thing as a greater need? And so before racing off to say that this is our highest priority, I hope somebody's talking to the actual users, who some of whom are represented here, I'm sure, but some may not be. So I don't know, am I all wet on that, or is that?
I think that's a fair point. I know that our online survey is going to be open for 2 weeks. And so really as much as we can get the word out about that survey to expand everybody in the community, students, community members that don't come to, that don't attend the school, but maybe use the space, is going to be really important.
Yeah, we don't want to have somebody come out of left field with what were you people thinking kind of thing later on. So
yeah, I'd be curious if Mr. Rios or Ms. Swanson, if you've heard just general interest from students at school around particular areas when they were looking at the 3 concepts before.
I haven't in my group for say first, or I'm around 3rd graders too. So no buzz yet. I think we need a prototype that would get some buzz going.
Yeah.
The kindergartners are so excited about play structures, and I put that in the chat, but like when they use the blacktop playground, they just run straight to the big toy. And when I'm in there with just my class, like the whole class just is on the big toy the whole time. When there are other students and they're interacting with like other classes, they'll be in other parts of the playground. But that's why I voted for it, because to me, I just see them, like I said in the chat, like just vote with their feet. They just go immediately to it and they'll be there for the whole time unless it gets too crowded, and then they move on to something else.
That's super helpful. Rainier, you said you've heard some buzz. What's your take on the playground buzz?
Same as Ms. Swanson.
You know, if we encourage a lot of teachers to take the survey, we might get some different feedback. If they're encouraged to take it from their perspective as a teacher and not necessarily giving the opinion of what they think the students would like, we might hear that they want to use the learning spaces, whether it's those painted spaces on the blacktop or over by the amphitheater, for teaching opportunities. Should I go back to the plan? Does anybody have any questions about the plan or layout while we're here? Sounds like we're probably out of questions then. Well, unless there is any final comments that anybody has, I'll just say it one more time. Please take that online survey and reach out to Darren if you have any other questions or want to get in on the volunteering efforts. And thank you all for coming. This is a really good group. We're pretty excited about this, and I hope you all have a wonderful sunny afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. If you want to stay on and ask any questions, I'll stick around for a minute.
Bye.
If we hold off 5 years on the amphitheater improvement, then my husband will have his journeyman plumber's license and he can donate his time to do the French drain.
French drain. Yeah. It sounds so fancy. That's great.
It's not, I promise.
Can we help out? Just bring our shovels and help dig.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, unless it's some kind of permitting issue, I'm pretty sure anybody could install a French drain.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage that. Just in
I was
case.
going to add one comment. This is Gretchen, and it looks like a lot of people have signed off, so that's okay. If you apply for a Department of Neighborhood grant in September, I think it might be kind of early-ish September. As soon as you submit that grant, any work you do after that date counts as match. So the weather is still good through the end of September. If you wanted to start some playground lines, painted playground lines, if you just want, and that could generate some interest perhaps to, do some fundraising or whatnot, or give some attention, but just something to think about. If you have money for paint, but maybe just starting some of the lines.
I had a quick question. This is John. In terms of like the volunteering, and I might have missed this, I think, because I missed the second installment meeting, but will it be limited to kind of like the painting and that kind of thing, or will there be volunteer opportunities for like actually installation?
Painting is definitely the big opportunity, depending on the exact play equipment and that's ultimately selected, and the play equipment manufacturer. That's oftentimes a piece that is a partnership between a contractor and community volunteers.
I'm going to jump in on this, Rachel. This is Gretchen again, and I just retired from 25 years doing self-help projects. And I would say that 98% of our playground structures that are funded by the PTA are community build. So that's an opportunity to assemble a play structure.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Other things like installing low retaining walls, moving the garden boxes, installing mulch. Those are all things that could also be done by volunteers. So, well, yes, we costed them out to factor in contractor costs. I think we can reduce a lot of those depending on what people are comfortable with installing.
I don't own a shovel or a pickaxe, but I know how to use one.
Gretchen, you might have to tell us where we can find the shovels.
Colleen will loan you shovels from the tool library that she now manages, and she probably has 50 of them, so there's plenty.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Rios. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. On my page, I see you there.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I think that's a wrap, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Whoa, we did it.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Thank you all to
thanks,
the
everyone.
entire Buys family for boosting our numbers.
Yes. At the top, we were at 21 people in
Oh,
attendance.
good.
Oh, wait, let me stop this.
Good.
So